We are picking back up where we left off yesterday in lesson 4.6. We have to perfect our completing the square today. Okay, or at least get it solid. Okay, so we can do this for homework. So we are completing the square. I'm on the back side. Our first problem is 2x squared minus x plus 3 equals x plus 9. What was step 1 we learned yesterday? Whoa. Go down to the bottom of the front side. The steps for completing the square.
Rewrite the equation in the form of x plus bx equals c.
Okay, there we go. Rewrite the equation in the form of x squared plus bx equals c. That is our step 1. Is we want the x squared and the x term on the left or together, and we want the constant, just plain old number, on the other side. And keep in mind what has to be in front of x squared. Or what's the only thing that can be in front of x squared? A 1. You can have no other value other than 1 out front. Okay, so steps we should take to get started here. Subtract what? I could subtract an x, and I could subtract a 3. I could see both of those happen. So we want all of our plain numbers on the right. 9 is already on the right, but what about 3? If it's a plus 3, we should subtract 3. So I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. Now, at the same time, my x squared and x are all supposed to be on the left. And I have an x on the right. So what do I need to do to that x? If it's a positive x, I'm going to subtract x. If I subtract x on the right, subtract x on the left. Okay, let's write out what we have here. We have 2x squared. What's negative x minus x? Minus 2x. 3 minus 3. 0. I'm going to leave a gap. X minus x. 0. 9 minus 3. 6. So I have 2x squared minus 2x equals 6. Have I completed step 1?
Yes. No, I mean, probably not.
Why have I not completed step 1? It needs to be a 1x squared plus bx equals c. So we need to divide by 2. If you divide the first term by 2, divide them all by 2. And this is a good situation where you wouldn't have wanted to divide by 2 as your first step, or you would have ended up with unnecessary fractions. Okay, so now my equation is x squared minus x, I'm leaving a gap, equals 3. Okay, now are we done with step 1? I've got x squared plus bx equals c. Okay, step 2. The b thing. Okay, I can take that. The b thing is that we're going to add b over 2 quantity squared to both sides. What is my b currently? Currently, I'm at this equation, and my b value is the invisible 1, or negative 1 there. So b is negative 1. So I'm going to do negative 1 divided by 2 quantity squared. What is negative 1 divided by 2? Negative 1/2. In other words, leave it as that. Okay. Squared. Negative 1/2 times negative 1/2. No? Negative 1 times negative 1 over 2 times 2. Positive 1/4. Because when you multiply a fraction by itself, it's 1 times 1 over 2 times 2. So 1/4. Now, what do I do with this 1/4? What was the whole point of this? Add b over 2 squared to both sides. So that means I'm going to add 1/4 right here in my gap. And if I add it on the left, we're going to add it on the right. Okay. Go to step 2, I believe. What is step 3? And realize when I say these steps, I'm looking at the bottom of the front side where it says completing the square. Step 3, factor the left side. So when we factor the left, remember it factors into parentheses squared. Every time it will factor into parentheses squared. X squared. The square root of x squared is x. So we put an x out front. Then the square root of 1/4. Square root of 1, 1. Square root of 4, 2. Square root of 1/4, 1 over 2, 1/2. And what sign do I have on my b term? A negative. Now, do you guys remember the trick you can use from yesterday? This negative 1/2 is the same thing that we have up here before we squared. So this, you could have also just looked at this. Okay? Clean up the right. What is 3 plus 1/4?
13/4.
Okay, so 3 plus 1/4, the obvious answer that some of you are saying is 3 1/4, yes? However, I don't like 3 1/4 for our purposes. Math Excel won't like 3 1/4. And we don't want to go decimals today. So, do you remember how to convert it?
3 times 4 is 12.
Uh-huh. Yep. Denominator times whole number, so 4 times 13 is 12, plus the numerator of 1, so 13/4. Know that process, folks. You've been doing that since middle school or elementary.
You know what's funny is I still can't multiply. I can, but it's really hard.
You can. It's a choice you make.
It's just really hard.
Okay. So right there was step 3.
Struggle with that.
Step 3 was factoring. Factor the left. Step 4, square root. So step 4 is square root both sides. What happens on the left when you square root x minus 1/2 squared? You get rid of the squared, right? The square root and the square cancel. And I have x minus 1/2. What's the square root of 13/4? Okay. Okay. So when we say square root of 13/4, I'm going to tweak it a little bit. Square root of 13 is square root of 13. Square root of 4 is 2. So instead of writing square root of 13/4, I'm going to write it as square root of 13 over 2. What has no one told me?
I don't know.
When you take the square root in an equation setting, what do you always put in the front of that square root?
1 plus minus.
Plus and minus.
That's a big subject of yesterday, and none of us remembered it. Like we talked about.
Yeah, I don't like it, so let's focus here. What's step 5?
Solve things.
Solve for x, please. Jameson, how do I solve for x?
All right. You add 3 on the other side.
Oh, I'm looking at the next one.
So let's focus and finish this one. How do I solve for x here? If it's x minus 1/2,
Add 1/2.
we're going to add 1/2. Now, when we add 1/2 over, okay, keep in mind we have this square root of 13 over 2. It's a square root, so you can't add that to anything unless it's another square root of 13, which we don't have. So if you remember from yesterday, I'm going to put that plus or minus in the middle, and I'm going to say 1/2 plus or minus the square root of 13 over 2. And we're going to leave our answer like that. Now, keep in mind, this is a tough example, right? What made this one so tough? There was fractions in it. Are they all going to have fractions? No. However, that doesn't mean that we need to avoid them. It doesn't mean we can't practice them. We have to be able to try the fractions. Okay, questions on this one? I haven't thought that far ahead. Haven't thought that far ahead. Okay, let's try the next example. 3x squared plus 18x minus 3 equals 0. Completing the square. What is step 1? He says add 3 because what are we trying to get? Okay, so x is by itself if you want to say that. We have x squared and x on the left, numbers on the right. So in order to do that, if it's minus 3, let's add 3 over. So I have 3x squared plus 18x equals 3. Have I fully completed step 1? We need to divide by 3 because we need it to be 1x squared. So what do I have when I divide by 3? Okay, x squared plus 6x, I left a gap, equals 1. Good news, if you're looking ahead on this one, we won't have the fraction issue that we had on last one. Okay, what is step 2? Okay, the b thing, which is b over 2, quantity squared. What is b? This time b is 6. So we're going to do 6 divided by 2, quantity squared. What is 6 divided by 2? 3. And 3 squared? 9. What do I do with that 9? I'm going to add it. We're going to add it to the left. And add it to the right. What is step 3? Factor the left. And remember, anytime we say factor the left, it's parentheses squared. If you would rather think what multiplies to be 9 and adds to be 6, you could think like that. What multiplies to be 9 and adds to be 6? 3. Or, I've been doing square roots, right? What's the square root of 9? 3. Square root of x squared makes it x. Is it plus or minus 3? Plus, because it's a positive 6x here. Or is a positive 3 squared that gave me 9? Clean up the right. 1 plus 9 is 10. Step 3. Square root the left. Oh, no, wait. This would be step 4, isn't it? Square root both sides. I'm sorry. I know my steps. I just forget the step numbers because I don't think in terms of step numbers. If I give you guys steps, I feel like That gives you guys something to go by, right? And I see some of you like flipping back every step to check, right? And I'm hoping that's helping. Okay, so step 4 it is. Square root. Both sides. What is the square root of x plus 3 squared? X plus 3. What is the square root of 10? What was it?
There is no square root. Square root of 10.
Square root of 10. And? Plus or minus square root of 10? And step 5.
Solve for x.
Solve for x. If it's x plus 3, subtract 3. So, x equals, yeah. Since it's minus 3, I'm going to say negative 3 plus or minus square root of 10. Okay, you got that? I mean, that's our third example there.
I put the square root first.
Do you have the plus or minus in front of the square root?
No.
Okay, the plus or minus has to go in front of the square root because it's plus or minus 10. Awkwardly, you could say plus or minus square root of 10 minus 3. It's awkward. And to be honest, I can't guarantee Math Excel will like it, but it's technically equivalent. Okay? What I'm trying to teach you when I put the plus or minus in the middle is that good math habits. Proper math formatting is you're going to see the plus or minus in the middle. Okay? Okay, guys. One last section. And this last section, writing an equation in vertex form. What is y equals x squared plus 4x minus 6 in vertex form? What is a vertex? Does this sound familiar?
Yeah.
Haven't we already practiced going from standard form to vertex form this chapter? In fact, did you have to do that on the quiz?
Yeah.
I'm thinking you did. Okay. Now, at the time, we used our formula. X equals negative b over 2a, and that found the axis of symmetry, and then we went from there. Okay. However, obviously this is in here because we have a new way to do this. We're going to use our completing the square technique. It's kind of steps, not exactly, but we're going to kind of tweak steps 1, 2, 3 to make this work. Okay? So, first of all, I need a reminder. What is vertex form? Yep. Unless he misspoke part of it, but I think he said it right. Y equals a times x minus h quantity squared plus k. Okay, that's vertex form. Now, completing the square is going to get us there. If you think about your normal step 1 is trying to get x squared plus bx on one side and c on the other side, right? Now, this is where we have to tweak this step because I don't have an other side I can put it on. Because this isn't a function format, it's y equals. So we can't really do that. So instead, what we're going to do is we're kind of separate it. We're going to put the x squared plus bx in parentheses and push the c value away. See, I need to run someone out of the hallway, it appears. Okay. So, with that in mind, I'm going to keep the x squared in x as x squared plus 4x. So there's my x squared plus bx. I'm going to leave a gap. I'm going to leave a space before I finish my parentheses. And then the minus 6 is going to be pushed down outside of the parentheses. So all I did is change the setup. And then I just put parentheses around my x squared next term. And I put the constant term outside afterwards. It still says x squared plus 4x minus 6 though. So that's your step 1.
I don't like that.
Well, the gap is for step 2. What's step 2 normally?
B step.
The B step. Add B over 2 quantity squared to both sides. Now, we're going to have to tweak that add it to both sides thing. But you know the gist of it here. So B over 2 quantity squared. What is B? B is 4. So 4 divided by 2 quantity squared. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 squared is 4. So normally we say add 4 to both sides, right? So I am going to add 4 in my parentheses. And the whole idea of adding 4 to both sides is when we add 4 to both sides, we're keeping our equation balanced. So we add 4 here, and technically you could think about it as adding 4 over here. But we really don't want anything with the y. So if we add 4 over here, what could I do to move it over here out by the 6? Subtract the 4. No? Okay, so we're still trying to keep it balanced. Don't make this harder than what it is. It's doable, guys. Okay. So the idea, normally you add 4 to both sides. Because we're doing this both on the same side to keep it balanced, we add 4 and subtract 4 on the same side. So we add 4 here, subtract 4 here. And I've recently found out that some places, if you go to some websites and ask for help, that's what they do, is they show a plus 4 over here, and then they subtract it over here later. I don't like it as much, but, it's the same idea. Okay, that was step 2. Step 3, final step. Factor. Well, of course we can factor. The whole point of completing the square is that those parentheses are set to factor. And as always, what are they going to factor into? 2 identical parentheses, right? Parentheses squared. Same way we've been doing this. Square root of x squared is x. What's the square root of 4? 2. So what goes in this parenthesis? X plus 2, because my middle term is plus. Clean up the outside. Minus 6 minus 4. Minus 10. What do we have here?
Oh my God, we're done.
We're done. We have vertex form.
I thought we got it.
I was like, there's going to be 4 steps.
No, there's no more steps. We got it, guys.
This looks way too easy.
It's really good. Okay, now. Okay, guys. So notice there's no catch. That's it. We took the first 3 steps and we tweaked them. Okay. Now, that's your vertex form. The other thing they asked for is the vertex.
I knew there was more.
It's not a catch. The vertex is easy if you've been with me all chapter. What is my vertex? Negative 2, negative 10. Folks, that's something I expect you to be knowing by now. Okay? If you've been with me, you've been doing the homework, you've been reviewing with me, that should be becoming solid knowledge up here. Remember, it's H, K, and when we do the H, we use opposite the given sign. So it's negative 2, negative 10. Okay.
I'm waiting.
We're done with this problem. I'm ready to move on to the next one. Okay, guys, I need you to focus. I've got 6 minutes left. I want to get this problem done, okay? So if you could, please, focus on task. Okay, step 1. Normally we say x squared plus bx equals c. What are we going to do here? X squared plus bx are going to be put in a set of parentheses, the C is going to be scooted down outside the parentheses. So it's y equals parentheses x squared plus 3x, leave a gap, and then after the parentheses is minus 6. That's my version of step 1. What's my version of step 2? Focus, guys. Okay, we have the B step. So, B over 2, quantity squared. What is B? 3, because it's front of x. So, 3 divided by 2, quantity squared. What is 3 divided by 2? 3 divided by 2. It's 3 over 2. Squared. 3 squared is 9. 2 squared is 4. What do I do with the 9/4? It is simplified. Okay. So normally, okay guys, I can't square root anything right now. 9/4 is what we're using. Okay. We're going to add, normally we would say add 9/4 to both sides. But since we're not working on both sides, we're going to add 9/4 in the parentheses and subtract 9/4 out of the parentheses. Okay, 9/4, I realize you can take the square root of 9 and 4, but that's not a legitimate way to simplify a fraction. 9 and 4 don't both divide by anything, so it's simplified. Okay, final step is step 3, which is to factor. X squared, the square root of x squared is x. Okay, this is an easy question. Square root of 9/4. Square root of 9 is 3. Square root of 4 is 2. So, square root of 9/4 is 3/2. Is it plus 3/2 or minus 3/2? My middle sign is plus, so it's plus 3/2. Now, last difficult part for the day. -6 minus 9/4. How am I able to put these together? We need a common denominator. If you think of 6 as -6 over 1, so what's a common denominator here? 4, because there's already a 4. 1 times 4 is 4, so 6 times 4 is 24. So I'm doing -24/4 minus 9/4. -24 minus 9 is -33 over 4. Yes, it has fractions, but that's okay. That is my vertex form. And final answer, what is my vertex? -3/2, -33/4. Okay, guys, your homework is lesson 4.6 in Math Excel. It's available. It's already been out there. It's due tomorrow. Huh? It's due Friday also, if you prefer me to say that.
I thought it was too.